it felt kind of off. I was like, ooh, this feels very old and like, Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a 2006 Porsche Cayman S. That's the 987.1 generation. And this is a nicely spec'd example. We got the lobster claw wheels. We got the roof rack. The owner, Bavesh, actually, you know, does, I think he said like kayaking, camping, biking, all in his Porsche Cayman, his daily driver as a little college student. Gotta fucking love that. He's done a few tasteful modifications. We got stock front and rear dampers with Tech Art lowering springs, DS 2500 brake pads with Sebro slotted rotors, and Advan V601 tires. We have 235 in the front, 265 section width in the rear. Also have a 7mm spacer up there, 15mm here, so you get that nice fitment. Might influence the driving dynamics a little bit with regards to understeer, but he's gonna remove that before the track day where we take this on track tomorrow. Also have GT3 brake ducts in the front for cooling and GT2 brake ducts in the rear. And clearly he tracks this a lot. He has a lot of fun with this vehicle. Kudos to him. Circuit Works exhaust V1.5. It sounds so good from the outside. When people drive this car by, oh my God, it sounds so good. But then inside, you can't appreciate it quite as much. He's even got the Deep Sump kit for oiling on track with that high lateral G's, the oil starvation issues. And this is the S, right? So we're up to a 3.4 liter flat six, pushing out 295 horsepower, 250 pound-feet of torque. And the base has a 2.7 liter, pushing out 240 horsepower. So you get about a 50 horsepower bump. Very welcome. That's of course the M97 Metzger engine. Metzger engines are known not only for their race-derived heritage, but that soul, the sound, the passion, the power delivery. This is actually the first and last Cayman with hydraulic power-assisted steering. Since then, it's only been electric, and you know, for hydraulic, my initial impression is that it's a little bit light, and not as much feedback as I would be expecting for a hydraulic rack, but it's still there. It's like a subtle kind of feedback. I just got out of a RX-7 FC with a manual rack. That one's like bam, right in your face, unfiltered. This one, you have to be a little bit more nuanced. My first impression getting in this car, everything just feels so smooth. Ease, smooth and ease are the words that come to mind. I really want to let this engine sing, but on this road we're kind of stuck lower end of second gear. Now, when I first got in the vehicle, the transmission initially was a little bit, it felt kind of off. I was like, ooh, this feels very old, and like, you know, it kind of like tilts a lot in each direction when you shift, and it's not necessarily super long throws, but it just felt a little bit awkward, a little bit funny. Although it is very mechanical and notchy feeling, without being too difficult, it slots into gear quite easily. But the more I use it, the more I actually appreciate it, because it's just so easy to use, and you're not really going to miss-shift this. The clutch feel, as in all Porsche manuals, is just right on point. Now, DS 2500 pads, something that I've used extensively on my old FRS. I think it's fine for canyon driving, but if you're doing repeated hot laps on track, they get up to temperature fast, but then they also get overheated, and I've cooked many a DS 2500. But a good hybrid pad, if you're not pushing it too hard on track, or you're good about your mechanical sympathy, letting the car cool. You know, making 295 horsepower and just under 3,000 pounds, the power to weight feels very adequate in this car. It doesn't feel slow or sluggish at all. The power isn't the centerpiece of the car either, but it feels very balanced. Now the Cayman S still has an open diff, which is not ideal, because we can't really use the throttle to help rotate us mid-corner. But for a lot of people, that's not really a problem, because the way that this handles these corners is just so, it's so neutral actually. with that mid-engine, you have that very tight polar moment of inertia, so it's very, very quick to rotate around a center point very close to where you sit. Great weight distribution as well, where you have a slight bias to the rear. People think 50-50 is ideal. It's actually not. We have a video coming out on why it's not ideal. You want a slight rear bias with a tight polar moment of inertia, which is what the Cayman has. Yeah, getting a little bit of feedback from the steering wheel, but not as much as I was initially expecting because it's a hydraulic rack. Oh, let that Metzger sing, baby! That's what we like. What I also find very funny is that every time you get into a car that has a telescoping steering wheel, it's almost always set all the way out. I just wish car manufacturers would make it, you know, since everyone always wants it all the way out, just extend it a little bit further. So then there's a little bit of range because, you know, there were some other drivers before me that also have it all the way out. I'm not fully comfortable sitting here 6'1" long legs. My feet are too close. Then if I move this back, then I'm a little bit too far. Beautiful throttle response. Downshift rev matching is a cinch, as is heel toe. Assuming you can get your knees and legs in the right position. Getting the tires to chirp a little bit. Don't want to push it too hard. This is fresh rubber. It sounds good here. It sounds nice in the cabin, but man, outside this thing just fucking sings, guys. And even going uphill, yeah, plenty of power, no issue. Now, the thing that I very much appreciate with Porsche is that all the inputs feel very natural, like an extension, right? So even the steering here, it's not too fast where the car feels darty, and it's not too slow where you feel like you need to turn it a lot. It's very much one-to-one, and it's a very tight rack too, even though this is from almost 2 decades ago. Still very tight and great condition. Bavish actually bought this at $38,000, had very few miles on it, fantastic condition. Now, if you were to sell it, probably around $32K because it has 50K miles on it. But for the money, like, you're getting a fantastic driving experience. Again, I wish that it had an LSD. I feel like Porsche releasing a sports car at this price point without an LSD is a little bit ridiculous. Even my GR86 has an LSD, right? But of course, the issue with buying one of these is the reputation with the engine. Now, I've heard that the reputation is worse than reality, as, you know, which is not really unexpected, I guess, but you have to assess the risk for yourself. Bavish is, of course, taking some precautions with the Deep Sump system, as an example. But you're getting a lot of driving reward. I will say though that compared to more modern Porsches, this doesn't feel as natural as one-to-one with the inputs. It took a little bit of just getting used to, okay, the brakes aren't quite as sharp and grabby and immediate. The transmission initially felt kind of weird. I was like, well, what's going on here? And again, now it feels better. You can adjust to it. But once you get used to those quirks, then you can really enjoy the driving experience for what it is. Because underneath the bones, the chassis, the tuning of this vehicle is quite strong. Very willing to change direction. pretty sharp front end. And even getting on throttle, unlike the 911, it doesn't get too light and give way to understeer. At least not until you really hammer it and really play with that weight transfer. Now, we have driven a 987R on the channel before. Go check out that video comparing it to a Lotus Elise. I'd love to try driving a 987, either an S or a base that's totally stock, just as a comparison point to really appreciate what Bavesh has done with this car, because it's driving beautifully. I'd probably change the brake compound, something a little bit more aggressive. But it's still smooth and at ease. Those are the words that are coming to mind right now. And that Metzger howl. If only I could let it rip a little more. Let's actually double clutch this into first. I still feel like the audio inside the car doesn't quite do it justice. Outside the car, it just sings. Oh, that way that it slowly builds to a crescendo. Not just the sound, but even the power. It really eggs you on. And that's what you want in a car, because it's not just, you know, people think that a car is better or worse if it has, you know, flat torque delivery versus being more peaky. And like, what are you going for? Because when you're going with this car, you're not trying to have a, you know, puttering around town optimized vehicle. What you're going for is joy behind the wheel. And this car eggs you on in the right way. It makes you feel confident pushing it because it's so predictable, it's so natural, it's so neutral. And with that weight distribution, the chassis tuning, you don't have to slowly build up to the limit. You can actually approach the limit much quicker than in many other vehicles. Again, around 30K for one of these, you are getting a lot of vehicle, but that's not without some concerns with engine reliability. My friends, what would you do with 30K? Would you get this or something else? Big thanks to Fenton's son from the Zygon YouTube channel for making this review possible. Big thanks to Bavesh for letting me review his car. If you would like your car reviewed on Jubbal and Cars, then visit us on jubbalandcars.com and fill out the form on the homepage. Much love, my friends. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next one.